Something new in the rafters at Lincoln Financial Field. Recognition of the Eagles' 2019 NFC East Championship season. The second for head coach Doug Peterson, who's now in his fifth year. Welcome, everyone, to day 2 of Eagles Training Camp 2020, presented by Independence Blue Cross. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy here at the NovaCare Complex. And Fran, we had a good 10-10-10 on Monday. We got another warm, sunny morning here on this Tuesday to get after it even a little bit more with Brandon Graham, double nickels, leading the way for the defensive line.
I'll tell you what, it was a beautiful day yesterday. It's a beautiful day today, and it just felt good. It felt normal to be out there yesterday watching training camp. Today it'll feel even better because it's going to be a full practice. Obviously, as you can see, everybody in pads once again. It's a lot of fun, man. It's great to be back once again.
We're going to give you a bunch of different angles. You see Jason Kelsey with, I'm going to call that a mullet. Isaac Seumalo with the hair flowing out of his helmet, and there's quarterback Carson Wentz. And check out our Carson Wentz Audible segment that is live now on the official Eagles channels. Carson talks a lot. Great leadership, great passion for the game, incredible intensity. Make sure you check that out because you're really going to enjoy a close personal relationship with Carson Wentz, who was my guest on the Eagles Insider podcast as he drove in to the NovaCare Complex on Monday. Had a very good first day, I thought, friend. Both he and Jalen Hurts really stood out.
Yeah, you and I kind of highlighted all of that in our practice notes, which you can find on PhiladelphiaEagles.com and the Eagles mobile app. And, you know, Carson, I thought, had a really good day. He was able to mix in some of the big names that we expected. We saw Desean Jackson. We saw Zach Ertz. We saw that guy, number 18, Jalen Reagor, very involved down the field, middle of the field, screen game. We saw all kinds of things with Jalen Reagor, which was great to see on day one.
And so you notice that we've got a bunch of cameras out here, a lot of different angles. Make sure to download the official Philadelphia Eagles mobile app. You can view all of these individual camera feeds in the palm of your hands. And there he is, number 24, big play, Slay. Darius Slay, the prize acquisition in the offseason for the Philadelphia Eagles. Fran, acquired at the cost of a 3rd and 5th round draft pick from Detroit. This is a man who's made the last 3 Pro Bowls. This is a man who is around the football. He's got a big game, he's got a big name, and he certainly has a big personality to add to this Eagles locker room.
Yeah, I said it yesterday on the stream. That I just felt that he's been one of the most underrated players, regardless of position in the NFL, over the last few years. One of my favorite players to study on film when he was not a member of the Eagles, so I was so psyched when the Eagles made the trade. I can't wait to see him here in Eagles green, out in Eagles white today. Excited to see how the secondary looks to shape up, Dave.
And that's going to be one of our focuses today. We're going to look at that guy right there, that position anyway, Desean Jackson, who has a scheduled day off. Both Desean and Malik Jackson scheduled days off. We are looking at maintenance here as the Eagles prepare for that September 13th opener at the Washington football team. But Desean has looked explosive throughout this spring here, or the summer actually, here at the NovaCare Complex. So a scheduled day off for number 10. We look forward to focusing in on him a little bit later in our coverage here. And today we will take a look at that other cornerback position, Fran, along with the running back positions. Eagles have some questions to answer on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, you know, you and I, we've talked about that over on the Eagles Insider podcast this offseason about who is going to be that other starter. And it seemed like the front runner coming in, and that kind of carried through yesterday, was Avonte Maddox. Now in his 3rd year, has played safety. He's played in the nickel. He's played on the outside. He got the majority of the reps on the outside opposite Darius Slay yesterday with the first-team defense.
And there is Sidney Jones, a key player here. Interesting guy, has made a lot of progress with the Eagles. Came on strong in 2019, and we remember the story of Sidney Jones. Would have been a top 15 draft pick. That's what all the draftniks said, until he tore an Achilles tendon on his pro day. University of Washington. Long recovery, played sparingly in the Eagles Super Bowl season, and has been beset by injuries, Fran. But last year, toward the end of the season, a lot around the football. His career high 10 pass breakups. 10
pass breakups. He had that one game-sealing interception late in the season. So I think when you look at Sidney Jones, you look at that guy, number 32, Rasul Douglas, 2 young corners that practiced with the second team on the outside yesterday. Rasul mostly on the left side, Sidney mostly on the right side. So being able to see those guys come out, compete with Avonte Maddox for that starting job, it's going to be fun to watch over the next couple of weeks.
And we are live here at the NovaCare Complex. If you're just joining us, we are live every morning when the Eagles have practice. So Make sure you're with us on PhiladelphiaEagles.com and our official Eagles social channels. Cre'Von LeBlanc, who last year on the very first day of training camp, suffering a foot injury, limited playing time, but then all of a sudden in the playoffs, he's out on the outside playing 84% of the snaps in that Seattle playoff game. And I think he's competing inside with Nickel Roby-Coleman, but Jim Schwartz wants to see cornerbacks show versatility, and Cre'Von has displayed that.
No question. I think that's just one of the themes, Dave, of all the guys in that secondary, right? I mean, we've seen Jalen Mills, Avonte Maddox, Will Parks we talked about yesterday. A lot of those guys on the outside or on the back end of that defense have the ability to wear so many different hats. And when you're going to play the style that they're going to play this year, that's going to be very, very important. If you're going to have Darius Slay shadow an opposing receiver, 1 week or another, you need all those other guys to be able to move around and do a lot of different things as well. So a guy that with a versatile skill set like Cre'Von LeBlanc, certainly a very valuable asset.
And he recognizes the camera there. Eagles defensive backfield expecting to have, as you say, Fran, interchangeable parts, giving a lot of different looks to offenses, the ability to match up with all kinds of receivers and offensive schemes. Of course, everything is reliant upon the front. The Eagles have to be dominant up front. And as we know, Javon Hargrave is week to week, or out multiple weeks rather, with an upper body injury. And the Eagles also missing Derek Barnett with a lower body injury. He's week to week. Jim Schwartz, defensive coordinator, saying this morning that he expected Barnett to have a spectacular season, a really solid, good year. Not worried at all, just a physical position. And Barnett has certainly had his share of injuries in his 3 seasons with the Eagles.
No question. I mean, and that's been the bugaboo for Derek Barnett. But that's why, you'll hear everybody in the Eagles organization say you can never have enough defensive linemen. And you bring back a guy like Vinny Curry, who's someone who can, again, be versatile up front, can line up inside, can do some things on the outside as well, obviously. On the very first play, honestly, of the team period yesterday, Vinny Curry kind of getting into the backfield for a nice stop behind the line of scrimmage. So I think when you've got those guys on the defensive line that can do different things, line up at different spots, it can only serve you well moving forward.
You know, that previous shot there, Fran, the overhead shot, which I really like, there is no need to color correct. Let's go to camera 4 just for 1 second here. That is, of course, a new number, same hair for Jalen Mills. That is a bold shade of Eagles green that Jalen Mills is wearing on this beautiful Tuesday morning.
He brings the same level of swagger and intensity to the safety spot that he brought to the cornerback spot early on in the first defensive period yesterday. He got into the backfield, had a nice tackle behind the line of scrimmage, was hopping around, getting his teammates excited. So the same Jalen Mills wearing a different number, it's going to be the same guy here this year.
Friend, I think the hair is brighter than it's been.
I think that's a fair assessment. Early on in training camp, the hair game very, very strong for number 21.
Let's really evaluate what's important here. He's taking that hair game to a totally new level. New position for Jalen Mills, who is expected to compete with Will Parks for playing time, and they should combine to bring about what is now the hybrid version of the safety in today's NFL. It is not stand deep and run sideline to sideline and come cover and come support the run. It is be a linebacker, be a nickelback, come and blitz.
Yep.
You got to do a lot of things.
And in today's sub-package league, I think we're going to see plenty of reps where both Jalen and Will are on the field at the same time. And again, that speaks to what we talked about earlier with the versatility of that secondary. When you have guys that could do lots of different things, that allows the coaching staff to be very creative in terms of how they disguise coverage, how they blitz the quarterback, how they line guys up, how they match up to opposing receivers. So that's why it's really exciting for me to be able to watch these guys here on the practice field over the next couple of weeks, just to get a sense of how they're going to be deployed once things kick off against Washington.
5 feet 9 inches tall, 184 pounds. He's tiny in stature, but certainly not in heart, and certainly not in performance. Avonte Maddox, number 29 there, is going to have a chance here, Fran, to earn a starting job on the outside opposite Darius Slay. We have seen Maddox play inside. We have seen him play outside.
Yep.
And at this point, I think you're probably right. He's the leading candidate to be the starting cornerback. And there is Miles Sanders and Jason Peters. Jason Peters in uniform today after taking a day off yesterday. Yeah, some handshakes for everybody. Miles Sanders, remarkable. Let's look. One of 7 NFL rookies ever to have 800 plus rushing yards and 500 plus receiving yards. Here's the category. Here, Saquon Barkley, Edgerrin James, Marshall Faulk, Billy Sims, Gale Sayers, Abner Hayes, and Miles Sanders.
I feel like when you look at that list, some of the best dual threat running backs in the history of the game. I don't know if I've watched Abner Hayes' film, but I think all the other guys, I feel like I've got a sense of the skill set that they brought to the table. So certainly some elite company from Miles Sanders, and I think that speaks to the skill set that he brings, both as a pass catcher and as a runner. I know early on we saw that really nice run that he had down the right sideline yesterday. I know I talked about that on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast yesterday. We're going to have the daily practice recaps every single day that there's practice. Just like you and I are going to be sitting here every day, I'll be sitting with Chris McPherson and Ben Fennell recapping what we saw at the practice field every single day. So make sure you subscribe to the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, wherever podcasts can be found.
And Corey Clement trying to stay healthy after these last 2 seasons really marred by injuries. One of the heroes of Super Bowl 52 for the Eagles. Great story. Local kid, Glassboro High School. Isn't drafted, makes the team, goes down and makes the first tackle on kickoff coverage against Washington.
That's right.
And then in the Super Bowl, a star with a great touchdown catch, 100 receiving yards. Fran he says he's really redefined his body, his approach to nutrition. I really think, look, we love Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, terrific change of pace player. I think Corey Clement is so important. Can he stay healthy? Or do the Eagles feel the need to go out and get a veteran to add depth?
I've said this before. I feel like Corey Clement is like the perfect backup running back, of a guy that can do all the little things for you. If you need somebody to come in and block, he could do some things on short yardage. He obviously can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can play special teams. He's exactly what you want, or in the back end of your depth chart at the running back spot, whether that's your third running back, your fourth running back. Easy role player. Corey Clement, a fun player to be able to study.
If you are just joining us, we are here at the NovaCare Complex covering Eagles Training Camp 2020 presented by Independence Blue Cross. Dallas Goedert, who on Monday made that sensational catch in the end zone, going high to grab a Carson Wentz pass, one-handed grab. He and Zach Ertz, the dynamic duo at the tight end position, Fran. Is there a better 1-2 punch at tight end in the NFL?
Easy answer is no. And really, when you see what Dallas Goedert can do both as a pass catcher and as a run blocker, it further shows the versatility that those two guys have, both he and Zach Ertz. Great shot yesterday that we were able to share on all our social channels of that one-handed catch. Actually, the guy who is holding that camera shooting Zach Ertz, or shooting Dallas Goedert right now, Joey Helder, was the one who got that shot. So, huge play of the day, really, yesterday down in the red zone. Further example of what Dallas Goedert brings to the table.
The two of them, Ertz and Goddard last year, 146 catches, 1,523 yards, 11 touchdowns combined. Now, this 12 personnel, which is 1 running back and 2 tight ends, 60% of the snaps. The Eagles running that personnel package. What does that do to a defense, Fran?
Well, it forces you to try and figure out how you're going to match up, right? And even when you have an athletic guy, we see number 81, Josh Perkins, there as well. It forces you to figure out how you're going to match up. Are you going to leave a linebacker on the field to try and cover one of these tight ends? Because honestly, Zach Ertz or Dallas Goedert versus a linebacker in space, that's a matchup I'll take any day of the week. Or are you going to say, okay, well, we're going to come in light and play a safety over one of them? Well, now you've got a matchup in the run game that you like. And we know that the Eagles love to be able to run the football and establish themselves on the ground. Now when you take the speed element of Desean Jackson and Jalen Reagor on the outside, that makes it even more lethal.
Josh Perkins, one of those players last year who came up from the practice squad and really helped down the stretch. And remember, Eagles fans, that practice squad is expanded to 16 players this year. Obviously, the league is anticipating potentially players testing positive for coronavirus, being sidelined for a couple of weeks. Players come off the practice squad. Eagles looking at more than just a 53-man roster. It's building 16 players on the practice squad potentially. It's having an emergency list after that. It's developing as much depth as you can have.
Yeah, and I think, again, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but speaking to the versatility, this year, 2020, with COVID-19, versatility going to be even more important for every team in the NFL, because if you do have late scratches late in the week, you can't just throw the game plan out and say, all right, we're going to have to start from scratch. You need guys that can be able to do lots of things, execute lots of roles in your offense or your defense.
Nice morning. Players look relaxed. Getting ready for, I think, a more intense practice than the 10-10-10 yesterday.
I think so.
There are no fans here at the NovaCare complex. There are members of the media every day, and we've gone through the protocols as we kind of watch the Eagles in the special teams portion of their practice this morning. And with no preseason games, Fran, I always, throughout the years, and there's Greg Ward, who, again, another big contributor off the practice squad last year. And really, I would tell you that the Eagles wouldn't win the NFC East without Greg Ward, who in weeks 12 to 17 last year led all Eagles wide receivers with 28 receptions. Fran, a great quarterback in college at the University of Houston, 16 transactions from the time he was signed post-draft 2017 to November 23rd, 2019, when he was promoted to the active roster, we think for good.
Yeah, and to me, like the great story of Greg Ward kind of speaks to every year in camp, you saw him make stride after stride after stride. Then he goes to the AAF after not making it initially with the Eagles, has so much success out there, and then comes in last year, and obviously we know what he did for the Eagles last season. As you mentioned, Eagles likely don't make the postseason without that guy, number 84, and he comes in yesterday, was one of the starters in the 11, with the three receiver sets alongside Jalen Reagor and Desean Jackson. It's a great story to be able to watch, just a great development arc for one of the younger receivers on this team.
I'm interested to see how he expands his role as a slot receiver, the route tree, the run, the yards after the catch. Last year got his feet wet, got better and better and better. He's a kid who's going to work very hard. Getting back to the special teams here, without preseason games, how in the world do you determine those last few spots on the roster that you need for special teams players? One of the challenges that all 32 teams face in the NFL.
Those live periods that they do have for special teams, a lot more urgency, I would think, this year as opposed to other years. And obviously, jobs are won and lost every single summer. Not just who's going to make the final 53, but who's going to be active on game day. Who's going to be inactive because they don't have a role right here on kickoff return or kickoff coverage or punt return. Guys win or lose jobs based off of their roles on special teams every year.
And if you've ever wondered why the players wear those orange beanies on their helmets, it's so that when coaches are watching the film, they can differentiate between who's on the coverage team and who's on the return team.
It certainly helps the players on the field, too. When they turn around, they turn their backs, and they got to figure out who to block. You got a bunch of white and green jerseys around. You don't know necessarily who you've got to be able to target. But, no, this is a huge part. And honestly, one of the things I'm going to miss most from preseason this year is being able to go and watch special teams, because while that may seem boring and maybe that's a time when you might go up and, get a drink or get something to eat, to me, that's, again, harping back on it, so many jobs won and lost on this part of the game.
An injury update for you. Javon Hargrave, of course, will miss multiple weeks with that upper chest injury. Derek Barnett week to week with a lower body injury. Duke Riley, who missed practice on Monday because of an illness, Eagles linebacker, he is back on the field. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, sidelined on Monday. He is back on the field, as is, as we saw earlier, Jason Peters. Desean Jackson, Malik Jackson, they are having scheduled maintenance days off today. No need to be alarmed. Eagles exercising caution here, getting ready for the opener at Washington. September 13th, Fran. What are we, 26 days away?
That's not that far away, right? I mean, it's going to be here before we know it. So this ramp-up period with training camp being condensed in just a couple weeks, it's a little disarming, right? Because we don't necessarily, we're now just getting onto the practice field. We think we still got a month. No, we're only a couple weeks away before things start up. It's gonna be a crazy couple weeks.
And within those couple of weeks, NFL teams are allowed to have 14 padded practices. This is the second for the Eagles. And within that, Doug Peterson says he will have 2 days of live contact, tackling to the ground. Extremely important days to determine who makes this roster that is now at 78 players?
Yeah, I believe so.
78
right?
players. We've got to get down to 53. And we noticed yesterday, Fran, it was hard. Usually in the past, you go 1 offense against 2 defense, 2 offense against 1 defense, and then 3s versus 3s. Without those extra players, it's really hard to get 3s on 3s.
Yeah, the guys that are on the third team unit, and there's only a handful now at this point, they have to fight and claw for every rep, and that's why these special teams periods might be the only time they have the ability to show their athleticism and the way they move and their toughness and their football character. That might be the only time they've got the ability to show that. So it's a huge opportunity for those guys in the bottom of the depth chart.
What a beautiful sight. Practice in the foreground, Lincoln Financial Field in the background. There's Doug Peterson sprinting. There he is. Doug Peterson showing some wheels there.
Looking good.
As he goes from field 1 to field 2, and the Eagles move into a new phase of this Tuesday morning practice. Greg Ward, nobody works harder than Greg Ward. I really think that he is an example of, if you love the game and are dedicated to the game, you will make it. There is the Eagles' defensive line, expected to be a dominating group. We see on the right side there Sharif Miller, Philadelphia native, Fran, key player here, 4th-round draft pick last year. Eagles hoping he takes that big step from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah, one of the things I failed to put into the practice notes yesterday, Dave, there was a play early on. It was one of the first team periods, and Sharif Miller was lining up at left defensive end. And right at the snap of the ball, you could hear Connor Barwin, former Eagle, who's now on the coaching staff, on the scouting staff, yelling out, "Way to go, Sharif. Like, great job, Sharif." And you could see, again, young guys making steps, trying to progress, trying to develop, follow that same arc of a Greg Ward, get better each and every year, and try and find a role on this team.
Defensive line doing its get-off drills here, and you see how important it is. Keep your eye on the football. Don't listen to the quarterback's cadence. And when you see that football move, just an instant, get off the field. Jim Schwartz wants you to get up the field and cause havoc.
That's what this scheme's all about, is to get off and get into the backfield. And don't worry about what the blocking scheme is. Don't worry about how they're going to try and block. Just get upfield, try and dismantle whatever they're going to try and do from a blocking standpoint, run game or pass game, and try and make plays. Create havoc, make plays.
Fletcher Cox, 1st-round draft pick, 2012, one of the great Howie Roseman trades. Trades up with Seattle to go from 15 to 12. Gave up that 15th pick, a 4th-round pick, and a 6th-round pick to get a player who's now been a 4-time All-Pro, a 5-time Pro Bowler. He is just a dominating player. He and Brandon Graham. And Brandon Graham, not a single Pro Bowl, Fran, and
Unreal.
no double-digit sacks in his career.
But just such a consistent, good football player and a joy to watch every single time he takes the field. The guy's always going 100 miles an hour. Even like Fletcher Cox yesterday, Dave, it's day 1, padded practice. It was the first defensive session. Fletcher Cox was chasing a screen pass like 40 yards downfield. And that just speaks to the mentality and the culture they've built in that defensive line room. Those guys, number 91 and 55, are the stalwarts of that group, and they're the tone setters up front.
All right, Fran, let's talk a little position. Let's have a little fun here.
Let's do this, okay.
Defensive end, you got Graham, Barnett, Vinnie Curry, Josh Sweat.
Yeah.
Who's your 5th defensive end here?
That's a good question, right? Well, there's so many interesting names there.
Miller,
Sharif
Joe
Miller,
Osman.
Jannard Avery, who the team traded for midseason last year at the deadline. So a bunch of different options there off the edge. I'll tell you what, too. Don't forget about this kid, number 64, Matt Leo. He's got a little bit of a roster exemption, right? As an international player from Australia, played collegiately at Iowa State. Looks the part. Yeah, I was pretty impressed with what he looked like yesterday. But again, going back to who that 5th defensive end is, I mean, that's one of the battles of training camp, right? For sure.
Vinnie Curry, acquired or re-signed by the Eagles here. And Vinnie Curry, look, the 1 year he played in Tampa Bay, he did so, let's be honest, for business reasons, got a good deal to go there. He is an Eagle through and through. Extraordinarily difficult offseason for him. Lost a brother to COVID-19. Had multiple offers, Fran, to sign elsewhere. Came back to his football family here in South Philadelphia. Vinnie Curry belongs with the Philadelphia Eagles. and he will help this defensive end group.
Yeah, and obviously Derek Barnett out of practice yesterday and is out of practice today. First team reps, Vinny Curry, right side. I said it, first play of the first team period yesterday. He's in the backfield getting a tackle for loss. And again, just speaks to Vinny Curry and what he brings to this Eagles defensive line.
I've always thought D-line, D-end is it takes time. And so a guy like Sharif Miller, he needs time. And the Eagles expected him last year to be a developmental kind of prospect. Now it's time for him to take that big step as we work on the sleds here. This is something I remember Andy Reid telling me. If you ever want to teach a young person a drill, this is the drill. Because it teaches you bend, it teaches you how to get under pads and explosiveness.
And you see with that pool noodle, basically what they're trying to do is just react to the flash. It's the same thing as the ball. You want to wait, and as soon as that pool noodle moves, you see those guys flying off the ball, just kind of coaching up that reaction quickness out of their stance.
And your hand placement is in tight. Control the offensive lineman. Use your leverage and create a path to the quarterback.
Those pads are a little bit skinnier than the guys they'll be lining up against on the offensive line. But again, it speaks to your point. You're trying to teach those tight hands. You're trying to coach those guys to come off the ball with their hands inside.
I look forward to the one-on-ones, Fran. The O-line, D-line one-on-ones.
Yep.
Don't know if we will see them today.
That's a good question. Between that and the receiver DB one-on-ones, I mean, two sets I cannot wait to be able to watch, obviously for a lot of reasons, as we've already talked about.
Well, look, I want to see D. Slay here, big play Slay against Desean Jackson. Now, Desean put some stuff on social media. The cornerback's not allowed to touch the wide receivers at that point. I think that big play Slay is one of those competitive guys who can't wait to line up against Desean Jackson in these practices and run step for step with him. And they're going to push each other. They're going to make each other better football players.
Yeah, and to me, that's one of the things that gets talked about all the time. And we talked about this even during the draft process on the Journey to the Draft podcast, down like the Senior Bowl. Like the one-on-ones, you're looking for the traits. It's built for the receivers, just like the one-on-ones on the offensive line, defensive line. It's built for the defensive lineman to win just because of the situation. But you're looking for the traits. You're looking for the corner to be able to react, stay step for step, try and find the football. They're not going to go up and try and make contact at the catch point and try and be a bad teammate. You want to keep everybody healthy. So, yeah, you're going to let the guy win more often than not at the catch point just because you're not trying to create an injury.
So it's in this little simulation here, Rasul Douglas and Darius Slay working on the technique. Don't give him a free release. And I think in that instance, Rasul Douglas did a good job. Honestly.
Executing the assignment. That's all you got to do at this point.
Vinny Curry and the defensive line work there. As we alternate between the defensive line and the defensive backs. Two of Jim Schwartz's big changes in this 2020 Eagles offseason. Now Rasul Douglas will assume the defensive posture with Darius Slay Jr. And by the way, now they're changing. I'm going to try the entire year, Fran, to not refer to Slay as Darius in any way. He's insistent that you either call him Slay or Big Play.
Do you think you can accomplish that? I don't know if I can make that work.
I'm not that tight with him. He doesn't look at me and go, hey, there's cool Dave Spadaro. He's doing his own thing. Okay, there's Darius Slay.
Big play.
Releasing. Big play.
Big
Slay,
play.
right.
Slay.
So we are here every morning live from the NovaCare Complex. We hope you can join us. Tomorrow, it is Wednesday, so we will focus on number 11, the beefed up, muscled up, looking great, franchise quarterback, Carson Wentz, remarkably in his 5th NFL season. Yeah. Oh, how time flies.
No question. He had a strong day yesterday, as we talked about. Again, mentioned that on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, fueled by Gatorade. The podcast, we're churning them out. You've got the one with Coach Peterson dropping today. Again, I'll have daily podcast recaps, everything we see at practice every single day. So make sure you tune in to the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast and the Eagles Insider podcast, wherever podcasts can be found.
And that is our look at day 2 of the Eagles in pads here at the NovaCare Complex, Eagles Training Camp 2020, presented by Independent Blue Cross. We thank you all for joining us. Eagles insider Dave Spadaro along with Fran Duffy. Come back tomorrow. It's Wednesday here as the Eagles continue looking ahead to that September 13th opener at Washington. Have a great Eagles day, everyone, and fly, Eagles, fly.